Before being given command of Red Cell, Marcinko had led an elite team of SEALs, Navy, Sea, Air, and Land Commandos, whose mission was to hunt down enemy terrorists all over the world. And that experience taught him how to be a terrorist. Marcinko took us up the Thames River in Connecticut to show how easy it had been for Red Cell to penetrate this high-security submarine base 6 years ago.
We had swimmers got out of the water, got on the pier, and so our two guys coming down the pier took out the guard at the foot of the pier.
Took him out? What do you mean, took him out?
Walked up to him, says,
You're my man?
You're my man, had a gun in his back, and were able to go down through the hatch and planted face charges and took pictures of the bow planes to demonstrate that we were there. Came back out, got back in the water, and went away. Where this first submarine is right here, right. That is the same berth or pier that we took out, that actually got on board.
This one right here?
Yes.
What Marcinko and his Red Cell team of Navy SEALs proved was that real terrorists could capture a U.S. nuclear submarine, take it out to sea, and fire its missiles back at the U.S. And proving that did not endear him to the high brass of the U.S. Navy. Nor did proving that Air Force One, the president's plane, was vulnerable to sabotage. You might think there is nothing more sensitive, nothing more secure than the president's plane. Not to Red Cell, not while Ronald Reagan was president.
You actually took command of Air Force One, or no?
No. The rules of engagement would not allow us to play with that. What we were able to do was to steal a military vehicle and a pallet load of 500-pound bombs. And the day that Air Force One was to leave, we took it and parked it next to the access ramp where Air Force One was. The footprint of the shockwave would have taken out Air Force One.
What Marcinko is saying is that they could have blown up the plane of the President of the United States. How did Red Cell select its targets?
The way it really worked is we would ask a four-star admiral to sink to assign a target he felt was vulnerable, and then I would take a team out of about 20 people with contractors that took videotape night and day, so it was not you said, I said. It was documented.
Even though every base commander was told in advance of a 5-day period within which Red Cell would attack, in every case, that advance warning made no difference. Red Cell successfully penetrated the security of every base they went after, and to prove it, Red Cell videotaped everything.
The players know we're coming, the players know we were there, and then we play the game.
And what'd you do?
Eat them alive.
And because they ate them alive, many base commanders complained that Marcinko was hurting their careers by going out of his way to make them look bad. Remember, these are actual Red Cell videotapes.
We would drink in the bars, steal ID cards, find out where people hang out, observe activity on the base, and do probes. Little dumb tricks like we would find the back gates and change the locks, so we had the keys to the locks, and knowing that they never used them. Our car would get through, we'd lock the gate in the hall, and of course they'd be there with no chain cutters and stuck.
Some of the commanders were so embarrassed by what Red Cell was able to do to them that they denied it ever happened. But as we said, Red Cell had videotaped everything. Planting simulated bombs almost everywhere they went. Taking hostages almost everywhere they went.
Hey, Court, we're going to kill one because this bitch ain't going to cooperate. Shut up!
And sometimes Red Cell played very rough, like the time in the Philippines when they seized this Navy base commander. And the wife of that base commander. And this game of terrorism, that's what you're looking at, got rougher still. Again, this is actual footage shot by Red Cell when they kidnapped the base security director at a naval ammunition facility in California. One man called some of the things Marcinko did illegal, and he was in a position to do something about it. Navy Admiral Irish Flynn was head of the Naval Investigative Service, the NIS, and there was no love lost between Flynn, a former SEAL commander, and Marcinko. John Mason was one of Marcinko's Red Cell terrorists.
Flynn was upset with Marcinko and the rogue methods of operating, and we weren't clean-cut Navy men. We blended in with anyone in the country. So Flynn had a hard time swallowing that, and then when he got in charge of NIS, it was like, finally, he was in a position that he could investigate Marcinko from one end of the spectrum to the other.
And he got him.
Yes, sir.
You know, the Naval Investigative Service says that you were just a bunch of cowboys who ran amok. We're totally out of control. Gang of thugs.
I disagree. Stylistically, it may have looked like I was a renegade and there was no checks and balances on, but in each case, 4-Star said what would be done, and I reported what had happened and gave them written reports and visual documentation. And that's what's most embarrassing. It's hard to hide the film.
How did Irish Flynn and the Naval Investigative Service get Marcinko? Marcinko had equipped his team with state-of-the-art weapons, plus boats and parachutes and aircraft. But the way he got that equipment was often unorthodox and sometimes illegal.
And so you engaged in a little thievery? Creative bookkeeping?
Oh, absolutely.
Admiral Flynn and his Naval Investigative Service, the NIS, launched a criminal investigation of Marcinko that went on for 5 years at a cost estimated to be $10 million a year for a total of $50 million. And when military prosecutors refused to take action against Marcinko, NIS, in a highly unusual legal maneuver, took its case to the Justice Department, which agreed to prosecute, charging that Marcinko had taken part in a $113,000 kickback scheme.
We asked various high-level Navy officers to talk to us on camera about Dick Marcinko, but they all declined. They said they didn't want to embarrass the Navy. Retired Admiral Irish Flynn, however, did tell us off camera that he thought the criminal investigation of Marcinko was indeed warranted.
To get Marcinko, the government first indicted his close associate, John Mason, on a variety of charges involving cheating on his expense accounts and conflict of interest. And then the government gave Mason total immunity in return for his testimony against Marcinko, whose first trial ended in a hung jury, but who was convicted at a second trial and served 15 months at this minimum security prison. With the Cold War over, is there still a need for a group like Red Cell? But what if someone like Abu Nidal or Hezbollah wanted to attack a high-security nuclear submarine base, like that one you saw earlier at New London, Connecticut? Remember, this is the very same base Red Cell penetrated 6 years ago to help improve security.
Can you imagine us coming down some river in Russia with a submarine base and no security except for that little boat that's following us and not even curious despite the fact that they can see this television camera? I would think that the Navy would be embarrassed as the dickens. That this kind of picture, I mean, the security boats have seen it, we're out here with cameras. We haven't gotten permission from anybody to do this.
I don't know logically how you rationalize that things haven't improved since 85, 86, other than that security is a discomfort and it causes features to go away that people like.
When we told the Navy's Chief of Information, Rear Admiral Brent Baker, about our unannounced visit to New London, his response was, "Oh, God, you really didn't do that." But he had no further comment.
And finally, keep in mind that the annual cost of Red Cell in these days of plummeting Pentagon budgets was about $2 million a year. Some might call that a fairly cheap insurance policy.